Ratio, proportion, and percent. A ratio compares two things. You can write it with a colon, or you can write it as a fraction. So like if you think about it, 2/3 is a ratio. I want to say there's a question like this. Wins and losses of some sort of team. Somebody name a team. I don't know. Who's a fan of sports? The Lakers. What's the record? Do you know? Okay. So let's say the Lakers are... The Lakers' record is... We're about 3/4 of the way. So 40, 20... Let's say 50 wins, 30 losses. Okay? The ratio of wins to losses would be 50/30, right? The ratio of wins the ratio of wins to games wouldn't be 50/30. It would be 50 over the total, which is 80 games. So keep that in mind. All right, $80 to $25. Just write it as a fraction. If you have like a scale on a map, you can write 4 inches for every 2 miles. You know when you look on Google Maps or you look on a map and it's got the little scale in the bottom right corner, every 4 inches is 2 miles. That's what it is.
So it matters what you put on top and the bottom?
Yes, it does. It matters what you put on top to bottom. I think in all the questions, it's just the first thing. But when you say 80 to 25, put 80 over 25, 25 on the bottom. Yeah. Oh, what we're going to get to is the word per. So let's say it said $3 per 2 sodas. That would be dollars over soda, right? So per means division. We'll see in the examples. This is really good. It'll be easy. Use a circle graph to determine how many students have electronic devices to find the ratio of 2 devices to 0 devices. You read the graph. It says ratio of 2 devices to 0. My shades of green are a little tough to see. How many students have two devices? 95. How many students have 0 devices? 25. Yeah. And then you'd have to reduce it. So I think maybe divide by 5. 95 divided by 5 is 19 over 5. All I did was pick the two numbers that they were asking for. 0 devices and 2 devices. Questions about that?
You don't have to skip the 5 into the 19. Like you leave it as is.
Yeah, you mean make it a mixed fraction? Good question. We actually don't need to do a mixed fraction here because when you're talking about a ratio, it doesn't quite make sense to talk about the whole number. Like I could write it as 3 4/5. I mean, you could say that there's like 3 4/5 of a student with 2 devices for every one that has 0 devices, but it gets a little...
Safe to say that this next.
Yeah. On the computer, you should be able to put 19 over 5. I think that was the case with the Chapter 4 test, too. Okay, unit rate is the same thing as saying price per unit. That's like the most common thing. And then remember that per means the word divide. Yogurts are at the store, 3 for $1.29. First make a ratio and then find the unit rate. I actually have to do it. I don't know what the answer is. Okay, so we have a unit cost. What's the unit cost per yogurt? 0.43, which is 43 cents. But just make sure you make your fraction and divide. Because notice how it says price per unit. You need to put the dollars on top. Yogurt's on bottom. That's how you know you're doing it the right way. Per yogurt. This has no price in it, but it's 16 meters for every 4 feet. Well, let's just write 16 meters over 4 feet. How do I find the unit measure? Divide. So this becomes 4 meters for every 1 foot. Two cans of Pepsi for $2.79. We'll do the rounding in a second, but yeah, you always got to make sure what the question is going to be asking for. What are you going to do? Yeah. Sure. And the answer? Per can. If it says round to the nearest cent, it would become $1.40. Then they give you questions where you must compare. Like when I go to the grocery store and I look at 10 different brands of yogurts. It's usually Dannon yogurt, but I was forced to buy like some sort of French kind that I've never heard of. La yogurt. Whatever that is. And I had no idea that corn could come in so many different things. Like, apparently this popcorn here is brown. It starts off brown. That's the way corn is. I don't know. There's a sale for tomatoes are 3 for $1.55. Corn is buy 5 for $1.99. Which is the better buy? So when the computer is asking you that, you must find the price per unit. Is it? Okay. So tell me what to do. I'm sorry, I missed the numbers.
0.516.
Okay.
And 0.398.
Okay. So corn is the better buy. Good. We did a whole ratio thing. Now a proportion will compare to ratios. I'm trying to write a couple examples. Okay, now when you write a proportion, you will cross multiply, which we talked about already, to solve. But first, write a proportion. $55 is to 10 cans of soup, as $550 is to 100 cans. The first part of the problems in the computer, they just want you to like write things out. $55 over 10 cans is to 10 cans of soup, as $550 is to 100 cans. True proportion. Why? If I take the top and bottom and multiply each number by 10, you would get this. So they are equal. Which brings us to the next question. Determine if the proportion is true or false. Three different ways to do this. First, you can perform the division. Three divided by 5 is 0.6. 8 divided by 15. If it's anything other than 0.6, it is not a true statement. So I got 0.53 repeating. So the answer is false. Okay, not equal. Next way. Cross multiply. 3 times 15, is that equal to 8 times 5? Well, is 45 equal to 40? No. So we say false. And then the only other way you could do it is to reduce the fraction as much as possible. Yeah, but I don't think 8 over 15 reduces.
No, so what I did was I did 5 percent on 15 three times, and then I multiplied 3 by 3, and I got 9, so I figured it would be equal.
Oh, right. Okay. Now, if you compare it and say 3/5, you have to do 5 times 3 is what you said. That gets you 15. But 3 times 3 gets you 9, which is not what the 8 is. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. You can do it. Yeah, there's 3 different ways to do it, for sure. Okay, now solve the proportion. Only cross multiply with an equal sign. Eight times 20 is 160, and 12 times x is 12x. Okay, step number 2. Solve for x. By doing the inverse operation, you're going to divide both sides by 12. And then x is equal to let's see, 160 divided by 12. 13.3 repeating. Okay, they're probably not going to want you to write 13.3 repeating. So let's do it as
How much does 40 over 3? Is that good?
you divided by 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to put that as your answer. We feeling good?
So can you go back over it again?
We're going to do more. I want to do a couple problems that involve the percent proportions. So right here. Yeah, hopefully it rings a bell, right? Is over of equals percent over 100. So let's move this out of the way for a little bit. 18 is 10% of what number? We know from the previous chapter that a number is going to mean x. Notice that 18 is with the is part. Of what number? That's the x part. The percent, well, that's always with the percent symbol. And there will always be 100% the total on the bottom. And now we can cross multiply and solve. 18 times 100 is 1800 equals 10x, and then divide both sides by 10. Cross that guy out. X is equal to 180. Make this whole thing a little smaller, so let me know if you still need it. I can come back to it later too. What is 20% of 12? Now I think that the x will be in a different spot. Will the 12 go on the top or bottom? Bottom. Because it's the of portion. It's the total. The is part, what is x on top? 20% over 100. 100x equals, 12 times 20. 12 times 2 is 24, and then add the 0, so 240, I think. Did I do it right? Yeah, decimal. 2.4. Mm-hmm. Yep. 2 2/5. A few more. Oh man, all right. Let's see. Now the algebra, right? When you have a quantity on the bottom, it says x minus 8. You must use parentheses. And you're going to distribute. Right here. This is a quantity. Oh, 28 times 8. 224 equals, you'll see me write out a bunch of steps. So I won't even do the multiplication. I'll just write that out. And now my next step will be to distribute the 12 because it's multiplied by those parentheses. And write 224 equals 12x minus 96. I'm going to go down here. Now it's very important that you try to get x by itself. I would deal with the negative 96 first. What would be the opposite of subtracting 96? Add 96 to both sides. We're really getting into like solving equations now. Negative 96 plus 96 goes away because it's just 0. And then I have to do 224 plus 96. 320. And now I'm in a good spot because I can divide by 12. Well, why did I pick decimal questions? I got 26.6 repeating, but that's got to be the same thing as 160 over 6, which is going to be divided by 2, 80 over 3. Yeah. Okay? Sorry about all the other things going on there. Question?
I have no idea if I did it the right way or if I just stumbled across the answer by accident.
Yeah, because you reduce first. So like you can make the 12 over 28 a smaller fraction if you wanted. And top and bottom by 4, which would make the numbers a little easier. You can do that. Are there any ones that anybody wants to look at? I got like one word problem to do. And that'll be it. But any of these like you want to see? It's kind of exactly what we did on the board. You want to see one? Okay, let's do 28 over 12 equals y over 6. (28 times 6). (168). Get y by itself. (168) divided by 12, does it go in nicely? Yes, so the answer is 14.
Thursday?
A week from Thursday.
So next Thursday.
A week from this Thursday.
About 7 out of 10 people entering community college take English their freshman year. Let's say there are 1,218 freshmen. How many will be taking English? So the key thing you would have to do here is set up a proportion.
Word problems throw me off. Just give me that.
You know what to do? You know what to do? All right, so think about your keywords, right? We did like dollars per unit or 7 of 10. So how could you write that ratio? Yeah, but what number goes on top? 7 over 10. That's your first key phrase. I think what we have to do is match things up. So like 10 is the total. So let's say there's 10 total students. 7 of them would be taking English, right? So if you kind of make up your own units, I don't know if this will help you or not, but I'm going to say that there are 7 people taking English out of 10 total. Now look at the 1,218 freshmen. Is that the English or is that the total? So you know where it goes. It's going to go on the bottom. Notice how the units, like I'm calling them units, but it's like students. Notice how they match up. English over total equals English over total. As long as you match everything up. That's your key to all of these proportion problems. So 7 times 12, 18. 8526. Divide by 10. And yeah, this particular example doesn't make a lot of sense because you get 852.6. You can't have like 0.6 of a person. So you're going to have to make sure the answer is 853. Because you round it. Yeah, it'll tell you like round to the nearest whole number. Okay, I'll stop right there. That's our last question.
Reduce this so it becomes 4,263 over 5. This right here, this 8,526.
Okay, all right.
If you divide it by 2, then you get 4,263. Can you?
No,
No.
doesn't look like it. I didn't round a decimal. I just did the division. Okay, that's it. We'll stop right there.